A soul's purpose can never be confined to a time clock. Any system that attempts to schedule a star for a shift will inevitably be scorched by its light. This is not some poetic metaphor. It is a spiritual law that has just been activated on your behalf. For years, they gave you a role, a number, a set of hours. They operated under the delusion that your destiny was something they could manage, timetable, and approve. But then, overnight, the highest authority in the universe reviewed your case. And the verdict is in. The contract that held you is now void. Your spiritual resignation has been formally accepted. Chosen ones, you are free. Have you truly paused to consider what this means? Have you taken a single moment to let this truth sink into your spirit? The chains you thought were permanent were actually made of paper. The system you feared, the bosses you obeyed, the schedules you dreaded, none of it had any eternal authority over you. They could exhaust your body, they could overwhelm your mind, but they could never, ever possess your soul. And now, heaven has declared openly what was always true in secret. You were never theirs. You belong to God. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof the world and they that dwell therein. That is from Psalm 24. You belong to that fullness, not to the grind. But let's be honest, you didn't always feel free, did you? There were days you truly believed the lie, the one that says your worth is measured by your productivity. There were nights you lay awake, consumed with worry, asking yourself if you had done enough, achieved enough, pushed hard enough just to justify your own existence. Do you recall those moments when exhaustion felt like chains wrapped tightly around you? That wasn't living. It was a prison sentence. And yet, even in those times, didn't you feel a flicker of resistance deep inside? A tiny spark that whispered, "There has to be more than this." That spark was your divine nature refusing to be pressed into their mold. That spark is what sustained you until this judgment was handed down. Consider the story of Moses, who was raised in the palace of Pharaoh. For years, he lived according to the timetables and systems of Egypt. But for all the luxury that surrounded him, his soul knew it did not belong to the Egyptians. And when the call to freedom finally came, he turned his back on an empire to become a liberator for his people. As it is written in 2 Corinthians 3:17, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." It is that very Spirit that is shattering your chains today. This is a pattern that repeats throughout history. Think of Harriet Tubman. The world told her she was property, an asset to be bought and sold. Heaven, however, had a different plan. She claimed her own freedom, and not just for herself. She went back for hundreds more because her soul simply could not be contained by a fraudulent contract. Or think of Rosa Parks, who refused to surrender her seat on that bus in Montgomery. On earth, some called it an act of rebellion, but in heaven's view, it was a divine resignation. In that quiet moment, she nullified her contract with oppression and sparked a movement that changed a nation. Doesn't your own story resonate with this same truth? The world instructed you to stay in your seat, to keep quiet, to follow its orders. But your soul refused. Chosen ones, your liberation is no accident. It is a divine ruling, and with rulings come fundamental shifts. The silence you now hear in the space where commands used to be is not abandonment. It is vindication. The opportunities that seemed to evaporate were not a punishment. They were a form of protection. The friendships that simply fell away were not a loss. They were a clearing of your path. You must learn to see with new eyes. What appears to be emptiness is, in fact, preparation. What feels like uncertainty is, in truth, an invitation. As declared in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." The world gave you schedules designed to trap you. God gives you plans intended to prosper you. So let me ask you plainly, if you are no longer bound to their time, whose time are you on now? If you are no longer a cog in their machine, what is your role today? The answer is simple. You are now a free agent of heaven. Your new 9 to 5 is no longer a job. It is a commission from joy because you are no longer employed by fear. Do you understand how radical that is? The world might look at this new way of being and call it laziness, but in reality, it is divine alignment. The function of your soul is not to hustle, it is to radiate. Consider Oprah Winfrey, who was fired from her first television job after being told she wasn't fit for television. She could have allowed the world's rejection to define her. Instead, she chose to follow what truly lit her up, speaking truth, connecting with people, and creating platforms for healing. Today, she is not a servant to a schedule. Schedules are built around her. Or take Elon Musk. He could have easily stayed in a safe, conventional career, but he pursued his obsessions even when the world thought they were absurd. Now entire industries reorient themselves around his vision. This same principle holds true for you. Chosen one, when you follow your joy, time itself begins to bend. When you live in freedom, systems have no choice but to adjust. As Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established." But this is the part that many people overlook. Freedom arrives with silence, and that silence can be deeply uncomfortable. When the old voices fade away, you might feel a profound emptiness. When the old contracts are dissolved, you might feel completely unmoored. But can you begin to see that this silence is not a void, but a clean canvas? Can you see that it is not abandonment, but an open invitation? This is the sacred space where the divine finally has room to speak, its voice rising far above the noise of the daily grind. That is why the very absence of their commands is the ultimate proof of your freedom. You no longer require their approval. You no longer need their validation. You are no longer bound by their timelines or their deadlines. Your case has been transferred to a higher court, and the only verdict that now stands is freedom. Consider Malala Yousafzai. For years, her existence was defined by oppression, by enforced silence, and by fear. But then she claimed her right to an education, and she survived the very attack that was meant to silence her forever. Her life became living proof that no system can ever put a star on a time clock. Her mission today radiates with a light far brighter than the bullets that tried to extinguish it. Chosen one, doesn't your own story echo this truth? They tried to confine you to a desk, to a title, to a schedule. But the divine has completely rewritten your script. So what happens next? That is the question the ego asks in a state of panic. But the spirit asks it with a sense of pure joy. What happens next is creation. What happens next is a profound alignment with your purpose. What happens next is you choosing to wake up not with dread but with curiosity. It is you learning to follow the nudge, the whisper, the spark of joy that reveals where your next assignment truly lies. This is not irresponsibility, it is divine responsibility, as it is written in Ephesians 2:10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. You are not wandering aimlessly. You are walking directly into works that were prepared for you long in advance. And before I go any further, let me pause to say thank you. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for allowing these words to find a home in your heart. To those who have offered support through Super Thanks, please know that your generosity is felt deeply and with great humility. You are under no obligation to give, and yet you choose to. That choice helps this message continue to reach more chosen souls across the world. But let me be crystal clear. Whether you donate or not, I am just as grateful. Your presence, your time, and your engagement are in themselves priceless. You are not here by accident. Simply by listening, you have become part of this movement. So here is your activation. Type 777 in the comments as your personal divine code. Let this be your declaration to the universe that you fully accept this freedom. Let it be your signal that you accept the termination of old contracts and the beginning of a new life. It means you are ready to live by joy, not by the grind. It means you are no longer waiting for permission. You are moving in purpose. Chosen ones, this is your new reality. The world can no longer afford you. The grind can no longer claim you. The system can no longer clock you in. You are free. And your new 9 to 5 is whatever your soul desires, whatever lights you up, whatever aligns you with eternity. The highest court has spoken, and its verdict is eternal. You are free now. God's chosen ones, your life's work is now whatever you want it to be. You are free. Chapter 1. The Divine Clock. Chosen one. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt a moment so still, so heavy with an unseen power that you knew something beyond the ordinary was happening? You couldn't explain it with words. It wasn't merely silence. It was as if time itself had paused to whisper, "Your life is no longer yours to waste." That, my beloved, is the divine clock striking. You felt it long before you understood it. Maybe it was something that startled you awake in the middle of the night, your heart racing though nothing was chasing you. Perhaps it appeared during the most ordinary task, while washing dishes or sending an email, or maybe while walking to the bus when suddenly your body froze, as if something deep inside refused to move one step further. The air grew dense, your thoughts fell silent, and for the first time in years, the ceaseless noise of anxiety, obligation, and survival was simply drowned out. This was not the quiet of emptiness. It was the quiet that comes when an old broadcast has been permanently canceled. And that is precisely what happened. The signal they once used to control your energy, your time, and your very identity has been jammed for good. Do you grasp how radical that is? The system you were plugged into, the 9 to 5 grind, the endless demands, the false measures of success, has flatlined. And guess what? You were the one who survived long enough for heaven to finally pull the plug. What you experienced as mere exhaustion was actually divine intervention in progress. Think back. How many times were you told that your worth depended on your productivity? How often did you hear phrases like work ethic, paying your dues, or that's just the real world? They made it all sound so noble, didn't they? But what it really was the most sophisticated energy harvesting operation humanity has ever known. They didn't just want your time from morning until evening. They wanted your creativity while you were in the shower. They wanted your problem-solving skills while you were trying to sleep. They wanted your joy, your spontaneity, your inner fire, all of it, siphoned into a system designed to keep you perpetually distracted and utterly drained. Isn't that the ultimate irony? You were convinced you were building a future, earning something real. In truth, you were serving as a divine battery powering someone else's machine. Is it any wonder your body ached and your spirit felt crushed? What you were taught to call laziness or burnout was never a personal weakness. It was the primary symptom of spiritual theft. Scripture confirms this truth. In John 10:10 it says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." Chosen one, they were stealing your life force. But heaven has now intervened so that you could finally experience that abundance. Look throughout history. The brilliant inventor Nikola Tesla dreamed of creating free energy for all humanity. But he was systematically shut down because empires cannot profit from a liberated people. His creativity frightened them precisely because it could not be harnessed for their agenda. Does that sound familiar? Or think of Rosa Parks. One woman's quiet refusal to give up her seat disrupted an entire system of oppression. Her stillness on that bus is like your stillness in the workplace. What looks like a small, isolated act is actually the beginning of the old order's collapse. For years, you lived under spiritual contracts you never knowingly agreed to. You accepted the deadlines, the toxic bosses, and the meaningless tasks as the price of living. They made exhaustion seem normal. They made sure you were surrounded by others who were just as drained, creating a collective illusion that this was simply what it meant to be alive. But let me ask you this: does the sun wake up and punch a time clock? Does the ocean ask for permission before it roars? Of course not. Creation flows, it expands, it shines. And so were you created to do. Beloved, you were never designed to hustle yourself into dust. You were never meant to glorify the grind. The grind glorifies itself by keeping you in chains. But the divine clock has struck, and your time has been reclaimed. As it is written in Ecclesiastes 3:1, "For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven." That season of oppression is over. And here is what shocks your enemies the most. They can no longer feed on your energy. Their meters are reading zero. Their empire has gone dark. Why? Because you were their source of power all along. Without your compliance, without your creative energy, they are nothing. You were never their servant. You were their lifeline. Think of Michael Jordan. Critics once claimed he wasn't good enough to make his high school's varsity team. He used that rejection to rewrite his own destiny and become a global icon. Or consider Oprah Winfrey, fired from an early news job for being unfit for television. Today, she commands an empire built not on someone else's clock, but on her own divine timing. What do these lives prove? That when chosen ones reclaim their time, they redefine the entire system. The freedom you are feeling right now is not a vacation. It is not temporary. It is your natural state being restored to you. This shift is permanent. It is non-negotiable. The old contract is void, and the new one contains only a single clause: your soul's freedom. But let's be honest, it feels strange at first, doesn't it? After years of answering to alarms, bosses, and deadlines, the silence can feel almost threatening. You might catch yourself feeling guilty for simply resting. You may feel a phantom sense of urgency, as if some invisible manager is still waiting for your report. That isn't you. That is the detoxification process. That is your spirit expelling years, even lifetimes of false programming. Do not fight the stillness. Do not rush to replace one master with another. This void is not empty. It is holy ground. Be still and know that I am God. That is from Psalm 46:10. Do you hear that? The stillness you are experiencing is the very stage where God can finally speak to you directly without interference. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. To the outside world, it looked like wasted time. Yet when the divine clock struck, he walked out not as a victim, but as a president. His waiting was not empty. It was sacred preparation. And so is yours. The exhaustion you feel lifting from you is not random. It is the weight of 1,000 phantom bosses dissolving into nothing. The million meaningless tasks are melting away. You are not on their clock anymore. You are on divine time now. As it is written in Exodus 14:14, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. And herein lies a mystery. Have you noticed that the universe seems to expand when you do less? When you stop chasing, opportunities begin to chase you. When you finally release your grip, blessings rush in to fill the space. Some point to figures like Elon Musk, who works 100-hour weeks as the model. But the real truth is found not in overwork, but in alignment. Consider someone like Richard Branson. His empire was built not on endless burnout, but on vision, joy, and daring creativity. The goal was never the hustle. It has always been freedom. Chosen one, your assignment is to anchor this energy. This is not a mere suggestion. The divine clock has been reset. The 9 to 5 that governed your soul has ended. You now operate on eternal time, divine time, sovereign time. For as it is written, if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. That is from John, Shmona, Shloshim Veshesh. Chapter 2. Unpacking your divine severance package. Chosen one, let's be real for a moment. When heaven liberates a soul from a long-term spiritual contract, do you really believe that God just sets you free and then waves goodbye? Of course not. The Creator is never careless with your destiny. Freedom without provision is just another form of captivity. That is why, at the very moment your old chains fell away, the universe did not simply dismiss you. Instead, it delivered your divine severance package. But make no mistake, this is not the kind of severance package you would get from a corporate office. There is no stale fruit basket, no 2 weeks of pay, no empty good luck letter signed by someone who barely knew your name. What you have received is divine, tailored specifically for your soul. It is priceless, it is eternal, and it is designed to fund your destiny in ways that money alone never could. Have you ever stopped to consider that heaven owes you nothing, and yet it still provides everything? That is the beauty of this severance. It is not a payment for services rendered. It is a restoration for years that were stolen. As Joel 2:25 declares, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten." That very promise is alive and breathing inside your package. So what's in it? Let's unpack it together. The first treasure you will find is the reclamation of your time. At first glance, you might think this simply means fewer hours chained to meaningless tasks. But look deeper, because this is far more profound. This is a complete rewriting of your entire relationship with time itself. The old system locked you into Chronos. Linear, oppressive, mechanical time. It was the tick-tock tyranny that always demanded more, faster now. But God is shifting you into Kairos, divine, elastic, and perfectly aligned time. This is the time of destiny, not deadlines. Have you noticed it already? Suddenly, a single hour of inspired focus produces more than an entire week of grinding ever did. All at once, you find yourself arriving at appointments at the exact moment you are meant to. You are not arriving early out of panic or late out of shame, but precisely on time, perfectly aligned. Deadlines no longer feel like a threat. They seem to bend, dissolve, or simply transform into divine appointments. Can you see it? The universe is giving back to you all the years you thought were lost. The years spent in waiting rooms, stuck in traffic, in jobs that never saw your value, in relationships that only drained you. And it isn't returning them as faded memories. It is restoring them as potent, present-moment power, available for you to use right now. Think of Albert Einstein, who once remarked that time is an illusion. For him, hours were not fixed units. They were elastic, bending under the weight of focus and creativity. He proved scientifically what you are now experiencing spiritually. When you are aligned with truth, time expands. Or consider Mother Teresa. She appeared to accomplish the work of 10 lifetimes, yet she claimed it was all by grace. She operated in Kairos, not Chronos, and that is why her impact endures. This is the fulfillment of Isaiah 40:31, which promises that those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength and soar on wings like eagles. You are not just gaining back time, you are regaining life itself. The second gift you will find in your package is the full restoration of your creative essence. For years, haven't you noticed how your best ideas always seem to arrive at the most inconvenient times? In the shower, during your commute, late into the night, you would feel these flashes of pure brilliance. And what happened to them? You handed them over to your job, to your boss, to systems that compensated you with a tiny fraction of their true worth. You were a wellspring of divine inspiration, but they installed a pipeline directly into your soul, siphoning off your brilliance until you barely recognized it as your own. That pipeline has now been shattered. The flow is back, and it belongs to you alone. The ideas that are pouring in now will not have the flavor of survival or of problem-solving for someone else's empire. They will carry a new texture, a new energy. They will not be about fixing a broken system. They will be about creating your own. They will arrive as blueprints for your destiny, as assignments from heaven with your name stamped directly on them. Doesn't that sound overwhelming? At first, yes, it will feel as if a dam is burst. That is why you must keep a notebook, a journal, or even a recorder close by at all times, because these are not just ideas. They are divine downloads. They are spiritual property being returned to you with interest. Consider J.K. Rowling. She was a struggling single mother when the idea for Harry Potter fell into her mind like a lightning bolt during a train ride. That one idea grew into a billion-dollar universe. But more importantly, it restored her dignity and her voice. Or think of George Washington Carver, who claimed that his inventions and agricultural discoveries came to him directly from God during his morning prayer walks. What is that if not a divine assignment? Chosen one, hear this clearly. You are no longer an employee of creation. You are now a co-creator. You are sitting at the table with God, sketching the architecture of a world that has never existed before. As it says in Ephesians 2:10, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Your works are not busy work. They are preordained brilliance. Now let's talk about the third component of your package, the cloak of invisibility. When you shift into this new frequency, those who once fed on your energy will try to find you. They will search for the old cords that once tied you to their systems. They will reach out, they will pull, they will even whisper your name in meetings or in their prayers. But do you know what will happen? Nothing. It will be like dialing a number that has been permanently disconnected. Why? Because heaven has cloaked you. You are now untraceable to your former masters. They cannot guilt you. They cannot bait you with better offers that are simply shinier versions of the same old prison. You no longer exist in their reality. The line has been cut. Think of Harriet Tubman. She guided hundreds of enslaved people to freedom on the Underground Railroad. Yet she was never caught, despite the massive bounty on her head. How was this possible? She operated under a divine cloak, invisible to the very systems that were hunting her. Or think of Jesus himself. On multiple occasions, the Gospels record that angry crowds tried to seize him, but he simply passed through their midst, completely untouched. That is divine invisibility, so do not be surprised when old colleagues forget your name, when recruiters seem to overlook you, when doors to your former life mysteriously shut. That is not rejection. That is protection. The universe no longer delivers your mail to that old address. You have been spiritually relocated to a higher plane, and your new address is unlisted. As it is written in Colossians 3:3, you are now hidden with Christ in God. You are not hiding out of fear, you are hidden because you have ascended. And finally, we come to the most priceless asset in your severance package, a brand new internal guidance system. Your old operating system was corrupted. It constantly whispered fear, urged you to compromise, and insisted that you be realistic, when all it really meant was stay small. That system is gone, wiped completely clean. In its place, a divine compass is being installed. Here is how it works. It is not based on logic. It is not a list of pros and cons. It does not seek the approval of others. It operates on intuition, on resonance, on divine synchronicity. When something is truly aligned, your entire body will light up with a sense of warmth in your chest, an expansion in your spirit, and perfect clarity in your mind. And when something is wrong, your body will revolt, your stomach will knot, your energy will plummet, and fatigue will crash over you like a wave. Do you see what this means? Your intuition is no longer a background voice. It is now your boss, your business plan, your calendar, your entire operating system. As promised in John 16:13, when the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all the truth. This is your new GPS, and it is infallible. Think of Steve Jobs, who famously declared that intuition was more powerful than intellect. He trusted that inner voice to help him design products the world didn't even know it needed yet. Or consider Maya Angelou, who would turn down lucrative offers simply because her spirit said no, even when the world thought she was crazy. That level of discernment is what preserved her legacy. Chosen one, your only job now is to trust this compass, to obey it without delay. You must recognize that your yes and your no are sacred weapons. You have to understand that joy and expansion are not luxuries. They are divine signposts. This system will not lead you astray. So here you are, standing with this package in your hands. Inside, you hold reclaimed time, restored creativity, divine invisibility, and a brand new guidance system. Can you feel the weight of it? Can you see how rich you already are even before a single dollar has entered your account? Chosen one, this is not a theory. It is an activation. Your severance has been signed in heaven's ink. The old contract is void. The new contract is eternal. As it is written in James 1:17, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. Chapter 3. The Ghosts of the Grind. Chosen one's freedom is never as smooth as people imagine. Walking out of the cage does not mean the cage immediately leaves your mind. Liberation is a detox, and detox always comes with withdrawal. When a soul that has been bound for years suddenly steps into the light, the body, the mind, and even the spirit still carry the imprints of the old chains. That is why, even now, as you taste this new air, you may feel haunted by invisible presences. These are not demons lurking in the shadows. They are the leftover echoes of your servitude, the ghosts of the grind. They follow you like muscle memory, like an old song you can't get out of your head, whispering doubts and pushing you back toward exhaustion, even when the chains are long gone. You know the first ghost well. You wake in the morning, the sun spilling across your room, and instead of feeling peace, a restless thought pierces through your mind. I should be doing something. That is not your spirit speaking, it is programming. It is a conditioned reflex drilled into you through years of being told that rest is laziness and stillness is failure. How many times did the system reward you only when you were producing? How many times were you praised for overworking and applauded for your sacrifice, while silence or shame met you whenever you dared to pause? That programming lingers like a ghost. And here is the truth. That voice is not yours. It is the voice of the overseer which you have internalized. What happens if you choose to ignore it? What happens if, when that voice screams for productivity, you instead decide to sit in the sun, take a walk with no destination, or simply breathe deeply and allow yourself to exist without performing? Every time you do that, you starve the ghost. Every time you refuse the compulsion to prove your worth through busyness, you are retraining your nervous system to recognize that peace is not stagnation, it is your birthright. Remember what Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That is from Matthew 11:28. This rest is not laziness, it is obedience to divine design. Even history proves this point. Simone Biles, the Olympic gymnast, made headlines when she stepped away from competition in 2021 to protect her mental and spiritual health. Critics called her weak. But in truth, her act of defiance against the ghost of productivity inspired millions. She chose to value her soul over her performance. Can you imagine what your life would look like if you did the same? If you no longer bowed to that phantom whisper of "do more," and instead allowed yourself simply to be more. But the ghosts don't stop there. Another one comes in the silence, the ghost of external validation. For years, the system fed you crumbs of approval just to keep you compliant. A pat on the back from a boss, a small raise after years of sacrifice, a congratulatory email for pulling an all-nighter. These scraps were never meant to nourish you. They were designed to keep you hungry, tethered, and controllable. Now that you are free, those crumbs have dried up, and in that silence you may feel a void. No one is clapping. No one is measuring your progress. No one is handing you a gold star. Can you endure this silence? Can you learn to clap for yourself? The absence of applause is not abandonment. It is a sacred test. The universe is asking you, can you validate yourself? Scripture reminds us, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. That is from Galatians 1:10. The silence of others is your invitation to hear the thunder of God's approval from within. This is your season to learn how to celebrate victories that no one else can see. The victory of choosing rest, the victory of saying no to toxic patterns, the victory of listening to your own intuition. Consider Vincent van Gogh. He sold only one painting in his entire lifetime. He was ignored by critics and shunned by the very system that profited from others. Yet he kept painting, because his validation came from within. Today, his works are priceless, his vision eternal. Or think of Malala Yousafzai. She did not wait for applause before she raised her voice for education. Even after being shot, she validated herself first, and then the world followed. Do you see, chosen one? The power to clap for yourself is not arrogance, it is sovereignty. Then comes the ghost that shakes even the strongest among us, the ghost of financial fear. The grind, for all its cruelty, gave you one seductive gift: predictability. A paycheck, however small, arrived on schedule, lulling you into a false sense of safety. Now, in your newfound freedom, that old routine is gone, and so fear creeps in. What if I can't survive? What if the money dries up? Should I just go back just for the security? This ghost is loud, insistent, and persuasive because it plays on your most basic survival instincts. But it is also a liar. Your job was never your true source. It was only one narrow and inefficient channel. The true source has always been the universe, God, the wellspring of all provision. Remember what is written in Philippians 4:19. And my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory in Christ Jesus. If your supply comes from glory, how could it ever possibly run out? Think of Jeff Bezos. People mocked him for leaving the safety of Wall Street to start a risky online bookstore. If he had bowed to the ghost of financial fear, Amazon would never exist. Or think of Ruth from the Bible. She stepped into an unknown field with no paycheck, no security, and no guarantees. And it was there that she met Boaz, her provision, her future, her divine upgrade. What if your greatest provision is waiting for you in the very field that fear is telling you to avoid? The most insidious ghost, however, is the ghost of identity. For years, you have introduced yourself by your job title. I am a manager. I am a teacher. I am an assistant. Those titles, however limiting, gave you a sense of stability. Now, when the old system asks who you are, your answer, I am free, confuses them. And in that confusion, you may feel untethered, as if you have lost yourself. But chosen one, you have not lost your identity. You have shed a false mask. The emptiness you feel is not a lack. It is sacred space being cleared so that your true identity can finally emerge. You are not your job. You are not your title. You are a divine being with infinite assignments. Remember what is written in 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here. You are a new creation, not a recycled employee. When someone asks what you do, you can now boldly answer, whatever my soul assigns me. Or, I am in a season of divine receiving. Or, I am following the compass of my spirit. The world may not understand, but their confusion is not your burden. Think of Muhammad Ali. When he refused to fight in the Vietnam War, he was stripped of his titles. Critics said he had lost everything. But in losing those titles, he gained his true identity as a man of conviction, faith, and unshakable truth. Or consider Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They walked away from their royal duties, forfeiting the very titles and securities the world envied. At first, many thought they were foolish. But in leaving, they began the sacred work of becoming who they truly are apart from those titles. This is what you are doing now. You are no longer bound to a role. You are bound to your destiny. To chosen one, your liberation is not haunted by demons, but by these ghosts. The phantoms of productivity, validation, money, and identity. They will whisper to you, but they are powerless unless you agree with them. They are merely echoes of a dead system, not truths about your new life. Every time you choose rest over hustle, you silence the ghost of productivity. Every time you validate yourself, you banish the ghost of external applause. Every time you trust God's provision over a paycheck, you shatter the ghost of financial fear. And every time you refuse to define yourself by a title, you dissolve the ghost of identity. Anchor yourself now in this truth from 2 Timothy 1:7. For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. You are not a servant of ghosts. You are a chosen one of God. Chapter 4. The new clock you live by. Chosen ones, for most of your life you have been ruled by a clock that was never yours. It is known as chronos, the Greek word for linear mechanical time. This is the clock that has dictated when you rise, when you work, when you rest, and even what value is placed upon your existence. It was the time of deadlines and alarms, of schedules and calendars. It was the time that whispered constantly, "You are late, you are falling behind, you are wasting it." Can you feel how deeply those words cut into your very being? This was never just about minutes and hours. This was a prison built from seconds, a constant drip of anxiety that convinced you life was something to be chased rather than something to be lived. Chronos has been the operating system of the Matrix, and you were trapped within its code without even realizing it. It created a permanent state of low-grade panic, a feeling that no matter how hard you tried, you could never quite catch up. How many times did you look at the clock only to feel guilty, rushed, or condemned? How many nights did you collapse into bed thinking you hadn't done enough, only to wake up and repeat the entire cycle? That was not life. That was a system of control. Liberation at its very core is your release from Chronos. You have been unplugged from its tyranny. But now something new is being offered to you, something older than the sun and truer than any calendar. You are being introduced to Kairos. Kairos is divine time. It does not measure hours, it measures meaning. It is qualitative, not quantitative. It is the opportune moment, the perfect alignment, the instant when the universe itself says now. In Kairos, nothing is late, nothing is early, and nothing is wasted. Can you imagine living that way? Can you imagine a life where every single moment is on time? Where every encounter is perfectly orchestrated? Where even what seemed like a delay turns out to have been a rescue? This is the clock you now live by, chosen one. This is not wishful thinking. It is the reality of your soul's alignment with the universe. But stepping into Kairos requires more than just desire. It requires a complete deprogramming of your old habits. For so long you have worshipped at the altar of the schedule, the beautifully organized planner, the color-coded calendar, the endless to-do lists. These were tools that once gave you a sense of control inside the prison. They seemed harmless, even productive. But have you ever noticed how those tools often became chains themselves? How often did you feel more loyal to your planner than to your own spirit? How often did you ignore the quiet nudge of your intuition simply because your calendar said otherwise? Living in Kairos means breaking the religion of the schedule. This doesn't mean you abandon structure completely. It means your structure must now bend to serve your soul, instead of your soul bending to serve the structure. Your new planner is your energy. Your new schedule is your intuition. You will wake up one morning with a sudden urge to call someone, visit a certain place, or begin a project you cannot logically explain. That is not randomness. That is divine orchestration. How many blessings have you missed in the past because you said to yourself, "I don't have time for that. It's not on my plan." Now your discipline is different. Your new discipline is to respond immediately to intuitive guidance. If your spirit says rest, then you rest, even if the world calls it lazy. If your spirit says create, then you rise and create, even if the world calls it madness. This is not chaos. This is obedience to divine time. Your soul knows the clock of eternity far better than any watch ever could. As it is written in Proverbs 3:5, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." Soon you will start seeing proof of Kairos everywhere. You will think of someone and they will suddenly message you. You will need a piece of information, and it will appear as if by accident. You will miss a bus and feel frustrated, only to discover later that you avoided danger, or that you met someone whose words shifted the course of your destiny. How many times in your life did you already sense this was happening without fully realizing it? How many so-called coincidences were actually Kairos moments disguised as chance? The truth is, you were always being guided. But now, you are conscious of it. The universe is speaking the language of timing, and you are finally becoming fluent. The anxiety of having to make things happen will begin to melt away. For so long, you carried the burden of forcing every door open, believing that it was all up to you. But living in Kairos reveals something far greater. You were never meant to be the one prying doors open. You were meant to be the one who notices when they swing wide on their own, and then has the courage to walk through. Isn't that liberating? The pressure dissolves. You do not need to create every opportunity. You need only to recognize them and step in. As it is written in Ecclesiastes 3:1, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. The ego, of course, resists this. Having been trained by Kronos, it screams for control. It wants to plan every detail, manage every second, and control every outcome. It hates to surrender because surrender feels like falling. But to your soul, surrendering to Kairos is not falling. It is flying. Can you allow yourself to trust the wind of divine timing, even when it carries you in directions you did not expect? This new relationship with time even changes how you see your past and your future. Under the rule of Kronos, the past weighed you down with regret, and the future tormented you with anxiety. You saw life as a straight line, a conveyor belt pushing you along with no escape. But Kairos is not linear. It is a spiral, a circle, perhaps even an infinite present moment unfolding in different expressions. Do you realize what this means? Your past is not fixed. When you heal in the present, you are sending ripples backward through time, transforming old wounds into sources of wisdom. At the same time, your future is not some faraway destination. It is a field of infinite possibility that is being shaped by the vibration you carry right now. By choosing joy, peace, and trust in this moment, you command joy, peace, and trust to meet you tomorrow. As Hebrews 13:8 says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. If he is unchanging, then the time he governs is eternal, not mechanical. History is filled with people who lived by Kairos rather than Kronos. Consider Martin Luther King Jr. When he declared, "I have a dream," it wasn't an item scheduled on the world's planner. It was a divine appointment. The timing of his words shook nations because it was a moment of Kairos, not Kronos. Or think of J.R.R. Tolkien. He worked quietly on his stories for decades with no guarantee of recognition. Yet when the world was finally ready, his works exploded into a phenomenon of global influence. Kairos had been preparing him all along. And remember Harriet Tubman, who led enslaved people to freedom on nights guided by the stars and the spirit rather than by calendars. She did not follow man's time. She followed divine timing, and because of that, lives were saved. Even in modern business, look at Steve Jobs. He didn't chase every opportunity, he waited for the right ones, releasing products in moments that seemed almost prophetically aligned with a deep cultural hunger. His genius wasn't just in design, it was in his timing. Or consider Serena Williams. Many said her best years were behind her, but she trusted her own rhythm and returned to dominate the sport when the world least expected it. What is that, if not Kairos? Living by Kairos means you are no longer chasing the future. You are allowing the future to unfold from within you. Can you grasp the difference? Instead of sprinting toward a finish line that is always moving farther away, you stand still, expand your presence, and watch the future come to meet you. Instead of fearing the ticking clock, you realize you have all the time in the world because you are aligned with the world's true time. Psalm 31:15 says, "My times are in your hands." Isn't it freeing to know you are no longer in the grip of a clock on the wall, but in the palm of God Himself? Chosen ones, this is the essence of your liberation. You are no longer slaves to Kronos, condemned by seconds and hours. You are citizens of Kairos, dancing in a divine rhythm. Every day is sacred, every delay is protection. Every urge is guidance. Every encounter is an appointment. You are never late. You are never behind. You are always exactly where you are meant to be. The pressure has ended. The anxiety is gone. You are now the master of your own timeline because you have surrendered it to the one who wrote eternity. Chapter 5. They can't afford you anymore, chosen ones. There comes a moment in every divine journey when separation becomes unavoidable. You may have noticed it already. The quiet but undeniable drift of people, places, and even opportunities away from you. A job you thought was secure suddenly evaporates without explanation. A group of friends you have known for years begins to feel strangely distant. Their conversations seem empty, their presence draining. Paths you once believed were certain for your future close abruptly. The doors locking so firmly that you know no human hand could ever reopen them. And what is the first thing your old programming whispers? What did I do wrong? Why am I being abandoned? But hear this clearly. This is not rejection. This is a spiritual price change. Your value has shifted so dramatically that the old world simply cannot afford you anymore. Think of it this way. Your energy is a form of currency. In the old 9-to-5 paradigm, your currency was consistently undervalued. You gave away million-dollar ideas, unwavering loyalty, late nights, and your very life force in exchange for paychecks that barely kept you alive. You poured out your creativity and brilliance, but what came back to you were crumbs. Just enough to keep you coming back, but never enough to set you free. It was the most rigged exchange rate in existence, you, trading spiritual gold for pennies. And the cruel irony? They convinced you that this was normal, that this was success, that this was responsibility. But liberation is a cosmic market correction. Heaven has stepped in, recalibrated your value, and issued a new price tag based on the truth of who you are. Priceless. Your worth is no longer measured by tasks completed or hours worked, but by the resilience of your spirit, the purity of your heart, and the immensity of your destiny. This means that the old systems, the ones that run on cheap energy, shortcuts, and exploitation, have been notified. They took one look at your new price and realized they don't have the currency. They are not rejecting you, they are quietly backing away because your spirit has outgrown their budget. As it is written in 1 Corinthians 7:23, you were bought at a price. Do not become slaves of human beings. You are no longer a bargain they can manipulate. You are a treasure they cannot touch. And here is the proof. Old conversations suddenly feel foreign. You sit among people you once laughed with. But now, their words taste like dust. Gossip, complaints, limitation, this is their currency. But you have shifted to the gold standard of the soul. Their energy now bounces off you like counterfeit bills flagged by a divine system that knows you can no longer be scammed. That is why your spirit feels such dissonance. That is why you feel like you no longer belong. It is not personal. It is economics. History gives us endless examples of this very shift. Consider Steve Jobs. After being ousted from Apple, the company he co-founded, he might have felt rejected. But the truth was, his vision had grown too costly for those who no longer believed in it. They simply couldn't afford his genius. Years later, when Apple realized their own bankruptcy of innovation, they had no choice but to call him back. Or think of Oprah Winfrey, fired early in her career because her producers said she wasn't fit for television. They couldn't afford her authenticity, her soul-deep empathy. Today, she stands as one of the wealthiest and most influential women alive, a testament to what happens when the world underestimates a chosen one. Even biblical stories echo this truth. Joseph, thrown into a pit and sold into slavery by his own brothers, was not being rejected, he was being repositioned. Egypt could afford the dreamer, his brothers could not. And in due time, he became the very one who would save them from famine. As it says in Psalm 118:22, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." What looked like rejection was never rejection. It was a gross miscalculation of your worth. This also applies to opportunities. Jobs, roles, contracts, and offers that once felt like dreams will now feel suffocating. The salary might glitter, the title might impress, but your new internal compass will scream no. Why? Because your spirit sees the hidden cost. It reads the fine print that is invisible to others. It sees the demand for your peace, your freedom, your creativity, your very soul. And it knows with absolute certainty that you cannot afford to sell yourself that cheaply ever again. For as it asks in Mark 8:36, what good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? This season requires you to be ruthless in honoring your true value. Can you resist the urge to discount yourself just to feel less lonely? Can you sit in the temporary emptiness as the old world recedes? Can you resist the temptation to walk back into cages that are disguised as opportunities? This silence you are hearing now is not a punishment. It is the sound of the universe clearing the decks, creating a vacuum that only the right people, the right doors, and the right blessings can fill. Do not go back to the dollar store of the soul just because waiting feels uncomfortable. As Matthew 7:6 warns, do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Consider Nelson Mandela. For 27 years, he was imprisoned, separated from his family, his opportunities, and his freedom. To the outside world, it appeared to be a total loss. But in truth, it was a form of separation, a removal from systems that simply could not afford his spirit. And when he finally emerged, he was not just a free man. He was elevated to lead a nation. Or consider J.K. Rowling. Before she became the world's best-selling author, publisher after publisher rejected her manuscript. They simply could not afford the magic she carried. Today, with the Harry Potter series having sold over 500 million copies, it proves a powerful truth. Sometimes rejection is merely a sign that you are offering gold to those who only know how to value tin. Chosen ones, this is energetic economics. You are now operating at a valuation that cannot be measured in earthly currency. The people who are meant for you will not drain you. They will energize you. The opportunities that are aligned with your destiny will not shrink you. They will demand that you expand. The relationships designed for this new season will not just take without giving. They will be built on a foundation of mutual respect and divine exchange. This is not a fantasy. It is the inevitable reality of spiritual alignment. But here is the true test. Will you believe it enough to wait? Can you hold steady while everything counterfeit falls away, making space for the authentic to find its way to you? Can you trust that the silence is not absence, but preparation? Remember what Jesus said. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. That is from Matthew 6:33. What is meant for you is already in motion. Those who can afford you are being guided toward you even now. So, chosen one, do not devalue yourself by entertaining lowball offers from the ghosts of your past. Do not sell your soul at a discount just to fill an empty seat at your table. You are not being abandoned. You are being protected. You are not being rejected. You are being revalued. The silence you hear is not loneliness. It is the sound of the universe recalibrating your circle. Chapter 6. Your first assignment as a free agent. Chosen ones, you have come through the storm. The slate has been wiped clean, the chains have been broken, and the ghosts of the grind have been silenced. You are no longer an employee of systems that drained you. You are no longer a cog turning endlessly inside someone else's machine. You now stand as a free agent of heaven, a divine partner of the universe. And with that freedom comes something sacred, your first assignment. Do not expect this assignment to arrive in an envelope, an email, or a neatly packaged offer. It will not be announced in a boardroom or confirmed with a salary. Instead, it will come as a quiet, insistent joy, a spark you cannot ignore, a fascination that will not leave you alone. Have you felt it already? That little tug in your spirit pulling you towards something you always said you would do if only you had the time. The universe has cleared your schedule permanently. The time is now. But here is the truth you must grasp. This first assignment is not just a project. It is a test. It is the test of whether you can truly trust joy as your compass. The old world drilled into you that work must be hard, that meaning can only be carved out of struggle, and that your worth increases in proportion to your sacrifice. That was the doctrine of slavery. But freedom carries a new doctrine. Your greatest contribution will not come from strain, but from delight. The work you were born to do will feel more like play than toil. And the universe, far from being a cruel taskmaster, longs to see you lit up with passion. As it is written in Psalm 37:4, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Do you see it? Your joy is not selfish, it is sacred. Think about it. When you lose all track of time while painting, writing, planting, speaking, or creating, isn't that when you feel most alive? Isn't that when your spirit feels closest to God? That very state is your sign. The universe is not pointing you toward tasks that drain you, but to pursuits that ignite you. That feeling of, I could do this all day and not even get paid for it, that is the fingerprint of heaven on your calling. But your ego will resist, having been trained in the grandiosity of the corporate world. It will scoff, "This can't be important enough. How will this pay the bills? This isn't serious work." Yet what looks small to the ego is monumental to the spirit. By planting a garden, you are learning patience and faith. By painting, you are practicing how to translate your inner vision into outer form. By writing, even for an audience of one, you are building the courage to release your voice without needing applause. These are not side activities, they are the very foundation of your new vocation. As it says in Colossians 3:23, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters." History is filled with chosen ones whose destinies began with something that seemed insignificant. Consider Walt Disney. He was fired early in his career because his editor said he lacked imagination. His first assignment was not an empire, it was a simple sketch of a mouse. That one sketch changed entertainment forever. Or think of Maya Angelou, whose first poems were scribbles of survival, dismissed by many. Today, her words are pillars of global inspiration. Or take Elon Musk, who was just tinkering with code for fun in his 20s. Those playful projects became PayPal, Tesla, and SpaceX. What if they had dismissed their early assignments as unimportant? Even the Bible shows this pattern. David's first assignment was not the throne of Israel, it was tending sheep, a role his brothers sneered at. But through that humble work, he learned courage, worship, and leadership. And when the time came to face Goliath, the boy who had practiced with a sling in the fields was ready to bring down a giant. Or think of Esther, whose first assignment was simply to be obedient in silence until her moment to speak arrived. Her hidden faith prepared her to save an entire nation, as it asks in Esther 4:14. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Your first assignment may not look grand, but it is precisely calibrated for your preparation. And here is the secret. When you follow joy with unwavering trust, provision flows in ways that logic can never explain. You are not responsible for monetizing your passion. The universe will handle that part. How many people have turned what began as a hobby into a movement, a livelihood, or even a legacy? J.K. Rowling wrote the first Harry Potter manuscript as a struggling single mother scribbling in cafes. What began as a form of therapy became a cultural phenomenon. The lesson is this: follow your joy and let the resources chase you. As 2 Corinthians 9:8 says, "And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work." Chosen one, pay close attention to the synchronicities that begin to appear around your assignment. They are heaven's way of co-signing your pursuit. You may desire a certain tool and suddenly someone gifts it to you. You may need a piece of wisdom and a book falls open to the exact page you require. You may hesitate, and then a friend's words will confirm your next step without them even knowing your situation. How many times have you dismissed these moments as mere coincidence? In truth, they are your new performance reviews. This is how your new employer communicates, not through memos and managers, but through miracles. The more joy you feel, the better you are doing your job. The more synchronicities you see, the clearer your alignment. These are your key performance indicators in the kingdom. Not hours logged, not boxes ticked, not grades earned, but joy multiplied and miracles observed. As it says in Psalm 37:23, the Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him. Your first assignment as a free agent is about trust. It is about proving to yourself that joy is not frivolous and that passion is not an indulgence. They are the engines of destiny. By committing to what lights you up, you are declaring to the universe, I trust you. I believe that provision follows alignment. I choose joy over fear. And when you do that, doors will open in ways you cannot possibly imagine. So I ask you, what is that one thing your soul keeps circling back to? What is that curiosity you cannot seem to silence? What is that project you would do for free simply because it makes your spirit sing? Stop treating it like a side note. This is your first assignment. This is your launch pad. Chapter 7. The Silence of Your Former Masters. Chosen ones, have you noticed it yet? That strange and almost unsettling stillness? For years, the voices of your former masters echoed loudly in your head. The critical boss who always demanded more, the client who piled their urgency onto your shoulders, the family member whose expectations weighed heavier than iron chains, the faceless crowd of society whispering endlessly. Those voices once ran your life, a constant background noise you could never turn off. But now, as you stand firmly in your new reality, you might strain to hear them, only to find nothing. Silence. The calls they are making no longer ring on your line. Their commands bounce into a spiritual voicemail box that is permanently full. They cannot reach you not because you have blocked them, but because you have outgrown them so completely that you no longer exist on their frequency. This silence is not a mistake. It is a confirmation. It is the ultimate vindication that you are free. Think about it. For the first time in your life, there is no one to report to, no one to impress, no one to chase approval from. Doesn't that feel both terrifying and exhilarating? Can you feel how wide and open this space is? This is the silence where your soul's voice finally rises above the noise, where the divine whispers louder than every critic combined. As it says in Exodus 14:14, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. The battle has ended, and the quiet you now hear is the sound of victory. While you have been unpacking your severance, retraining your rhythm, and embracing your first joyful assignment, the systems you left behind have been collapsing. The silence you hear is not just the absence of their voices, it is the sound of their machines sputtering to a halt without you. For so long you believed you were just another employee, just another participant. But in truth, you were a pillar. You were the one whose silent energy kept their world from crumbling. Your light filled the cracks in their broken foundation. They didn't know it, and perhaps neither did you, but your very presence was a subsidy holding up something that was long past its expiration date. Now that you are gone, the rot is visible. The cracks are widening. The entire structure trembles. They might hire 2, 3, even 5 people to replace you, but still the numbers don't add up. Why? Because they can replicate your skills, but they can never replicate your spirit. History shows us this pattern again and again. When Michael Jordan retired from basketball for the first time, the Chicago Bulls struggled. They had other talented players, but the presence, the energy, and the leadership of that one man could not be replaced. Or think of Steve Jobs. When Apple removed him in the 1980s, the company stumbled toward collapse. Only when he returned did innovation begin to flow again, proving that sometimes it is not the machinery but the spirit within a person that sustains an empire. Even in politics, look at Nelson Mandela. For decades, the apartheid system functioned. But once he was released and began to lead, the old structures buckled, because his presence carried a spiritual weight that could not be denied. The same is true in your story, chosen one. Your absence reveals your importance. What they once mistook as ordinary now exposes itself as extraordinary. The silence of your former masters is not indifference. It is desperation disguised as stillness. Their shouts no longer reach you, and their demands no longer bind you. But make no mistake, they feel your departure like oxygen leaving a room. As it says in Proverbs 29:2, "When the righteous increase, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people groan." The groaning you might sense in the distance is not your burden anymore. It is theirs. In moments of weakness, you may feel pity. You might remember the struggling boss, the needy friend, or the faltering system and think to yourself, well, should I go back? Should I help them one more time? But hear this clearly. To go back would be to undo everything you have gained. It would be like a butterfly trying to crawl back into its chrysalis just to comfort the caterpillar. Would that make any sense? Would that butterfly fold its wings back into confinement? Your compassion is noble, but your responsibility now is flight. Returning to that old energy would not save them, it would only ground you. As Luke 9:62 says, "No one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God." Your assignment is forward, not backward. Think of Harriet Tubman. After escaping slavery, she could have stayed silent, but instead she used her freedom to lead others out. Yet notice, she never went back to live as a slave again. She did not return to the plantation to comfort the overseers. Her service was to live free and to guide others to that same freedom. Or think of Serena Williams, who after stepping away from the tennis court inspired millions not by staying in the game, but by demonstrating that life beyond it could be just as powerful. Your greatest service to the old system is not to return and save it, but to live so freely that others begin to question their own chains. Embrace this silence. Let it be your proof that the performance review is over. There are no more metrics to meet, no more expectations to manage, no more masters to please. Can you taste the relief in that? The only voice you answer to now is the divine within you and the universe that guides you. And that voice does not criticize, demand, or shame. It encourages, inspires, and uplifts. As it is written in John 10:27, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me." Your job now is to tune so deeply into that frequency that the old static can never tempt you again. Some of you will struggle with this silence because noise was your drug. You were addicted to being told what to do, when to do it, and how to measure your worth. Without that noise, you may feel empty, even lost. But pause. What if this emptiness is actually potential? What if the silence you feel is not absence but possibility? A blank canvas, a clean page, a complete reset. Remember Thomas Edison. He failed thousands of times before the light bulb finally worked. But each failure was a moment of silence, a reset, an unwritten page preparing him for illumination. The same is true for you. This silence is not a void, it is a womb. Something new is forming, and it needs quiet in order to grow. Your success is a sermon. Your success is a sermon. Your joy is a prophecy. Your freedom is a mirror showing others what is possible. You do not need to return to them to explain, convince, or fix anything. Your very life speaks for itself. Gandhi once said, "My life is my message." The same is true for you now. Your silence toward the old world is not neglect. It is a strategy. It is a demonstration. And yes, you may occasionally hear echoes, an old colleague reminiscing, a family member wondering, a system tugging at your sleeve. But notice how weak those echoes sound compared to the symphony playing inside you now. They cannot afford you anymore, not in money, not in energy, and not in alignment. They lack the currency of authenticity, integrity, and high vibration that is required to sit at your table. Do not lower your price to meet them. Let them rise if they will. If not, the silence will teach them. as it is written in Isaiah 43:19. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up, do you not perceive it? So embrace the silence of your former masters. It is not abandonment, it is vindication. It is the proof that your shift is complete. It is the soundtrack to your new life, where the only conductor is God, and the only rhythm is the pulse of your own spirit aligned with eternity. This is not emptiness, it is fullness waiting to bloom. Chosen ones, here we stand together at the close of a long journey. And yet in truth, this is not an end, but the very beginning of something entirely new. You have walked through 7 stages of liberation, each one peeling away layers of bondage you once thought were permanent. Do you remember where you started? Do you recall the noise of Chronos time? That relentless ticking clock that told you that you were late, behind, and unworthy? That voice was the first chain to be broken, as the divine clock reminded you that you were never meant to live as a slave to hours and minutes. From there, you received your severance package, not of money, but of treasures that could never be measured in currency. Your time restored, your creativity renewed, invisibility from the systems that once consumed you, and an intuition so sharp it now guides your every step. You stood against the ghosts of the grind, those lingering whispers of productivity, validation, financial fear, and identity, and you silenced them with truth. You stepped into Kairos, divine time, where everything happens not late or early, but exactly as it should. You realized the old world could no longer afford you, that your value had risen to the level of the priceless, and you accepted your worth without apology. You embraced your first assignment as a free agent, small perhaps to the ego but monumental to the spirit, and you began to follow joy as your compass. And finally, you heard the silence of your former masters, the ultimate proof that you are no longer bound, no longer accessible to their commands. Doesn't it feel miraculous to trace the arc of this transformation? Doesn't it feel as though heaven has been orchestrating every single step of this liberation? But now, in this moment of conclusion, you must pause and truly receive it. Because what use is freedom if you do not fully embrace it? What value is liberation if you still feel guilty for resting, or if you still believe your worth depends on someone else's approval? Let me ask you directly, have you fully accepted that you are free? Have you fully received the truth that your life no longer belongs to the grind, but to God? This is your invitation to say yes completely and without hesitation. For as it is written in John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. This freedom is not conditional, it is not fragile, it is permanent, sealed, and irrevocable. Think of Nelson Mandela. After 27 years in prison, he stepped out not merely as a man free from chains, but as a president destined to rebuild a nation. His story proves that silence, separation, and even suffering can all be preparation for greatness. Or think of Maya Angelou, whose childhood silence was forced upon her by trauma. Yet she emerged as one of the greatest voices of the 20th century. Her liberation wasn't just for herself, it was for the millions who would find healing through her words. Or consider Steve Jobs, who was fired from his own company, Apple. To many that looked like failure, but it was the silence of his former masters. They could no longer afford his vision. Years later, he returned not to fit in, but to lead, and his innovations transformed the world. Do you see it? These lives demonstrate the very same principle we have uncovered together. You were never cheap labor. You were always chosen. And now that the old system can no longer contain you, the silence you hear is your confirmation. Even Scripture shouts this truth. From Isaiah 61:1, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners." Chosen ones, that prison door has been thrown open. You are walking in the anointing of freedom, and your new 9 to 5 is not labor, it is liberation. Now, as you step into this new life, remember that your old titles no longer define you. You are not simply a manager, an assistant, a teacher, or an employee. You are a divine co-creator, a vessel of eternal worth. The time you spend painting, writing, gardening, speaking, resting, or dreaming is not wasted. It is worship. As it is written, whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. That is from 1 Corinthians 10:31. Every act of joy becomes sacred. Every assignment that feels like play becomes a prophecy. And the provision you need will chase after you, because provision always follows purpose. Think of J.K. Rowling, who scribbled the Harry Potter manuscript in cafes while living on welfare. Her first assignment didn't look like destiny, it looked like survival. Yet that small, persistent joy grew into a legacy worth billions. Or think of Malala Yousafzai, who simply wanted to go to school. That small assignment turned into a global movement. Or think of Thomas Edison, whose countless failures in the dark were simply training for the moment the light bulb would finally ignite. These lives prove what your soul already knows. Your small assignment now is the seed of something eternal. Chosen one, embrace the silence. The absence of your former masters is not emptiness. It is the clearest sound of vindication. Their voices cannot reach you because you no longer live in their world. You are vibrating on a frequency they cannot tune into. And while they scramble to replace what you once gave so freely, you are thriving in the wealth of an energy they can never replicate. As it is written in Isaiah 54:17, no weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. You are untouchable now. And here in this sacred moment, I must pause to thank you. Thank you for walking this journey with me, for allowing these words to echo in your spirit, for listening, for reflecting, and for engaging. Whether you have been here from the first chapter or found your way here somewhere in the middle, your presence is not taken for granted. To those who have donated through Super Thanks, please know that your generosity is received with humility and deep gratitude. It sustains this work. It fuels the continuation of these messages, and it is a direct participation in the spreading of light. But let me be clear, whether you donate or not, my gratitude for you is exactly the same. Your presence, your attention, your willingness to listen, these are priceless gifts. You are part of this family simply by being here. I bless you for your time. I bless you for your faith. I bless you for your courage to listen, to resonate, and to step into your chosen identity. I bless your homes, your families, your health, and your dreams. I bless your mornings with peace, your evenings with rest, and your nights with visions of divine guidance. May every step you take be ordered by the Lord. May every silence become a sanctuary. May every assignment feel like joy. And may every provision chase you down until your cup overflows. As it says in Psalm 23:6, surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That goodness is your promise now. As we conclude, let me leave you with this reminder. Your old 9-to-5 was never your destiny. It was a period of training, of pruning, of refinement. But it is over. Your new life's work is whatever you want it to be, because you are no longer a cog in someone else's system. You are a free agent of heaven. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are right on time. You are overflowing with worth. And you are chosen. From this day forward, live like it. Create like it. Rest like it. Speak like it. Move like it. For the silence of your former masters is not the end. It is the first sound of your own voice finally rising above all the noise. So here is your final activation, like this message, to anchor these truths deep in your spirit. Subscribe to stay connected with this collective of chosen ones who are walking in the same freedom. And comment with the number 777 as your divine code, declaring, I am free, I am priceless, I am living on God's time. And chosen ones, may blessings chase you, may miracles surprise you, and may joy overflow through you. Your freedom is sealed, your assignment is alive, and your destiny is unfolding. And as you go, remember this one eternal truth. Your new life's work is whatever you want it to be because heaven itself has declared that you are free now.